there, boys and girls. Chris Dace back to give you another Dacetacular Mind. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for not dropping one last week, but work's gotten a little bit hectic and time ran out, and before you knew it, I was back up in New York. So I've been traveling for work the last couple weeks, doing a project that had me in Chester, New York, and just back-to-back traveling weeks. My weekend last week was very short, so I wasn't able to record a podcast. But I have found some time today, which is not Monday when this drops, but it is a Friday evening, late, to just chit-chat. It's been a while. It's been 2 weeks. It's been almost a month since I last recorded, because I do record these in batches. And I hope you enjoyed the Dace Man Show Origins, which was our last conversation we had here. This week, we're going to take it out from the history of Dace, and we're going to go more into, again, a perspective-type podcast. I like spicing it up where it's 1 week, kind of like a period of my life and what happened during then, and then the next week being a period of, well, not a period, but essentially a podcast about my thoughts on certain subjects. Now, this one I've kind of fumbled with a bit. Whether I was going to do it, whether I wasn't going to do it. Should it be said? Should it not be said? Is it anyone's business? And realistically, it's not. But it's definitely a weight that I've been carrying for a while. I've only told 2 people. I told one person a year ago. And the other person I told the other day, who probably should have known about this a lot sooner. Personally, I've known since 2018, so I think it's probably time to share this, and it goes hand in hand with today's topic. So today's topic, I want to talk about children, and not that way, you sick freaks. I'm just going to talk about the fact that, being a man in his 30s, and just this kind of world we live in, children are just everywhere, are they not? They are. So I've had the experience and luck to have met, influence, and care for several children over my adult life. Running joke has been that I exclusively date MILFs. There's no lie there if you think about it. But the awesome thing is that if you date a woman with a child, you are not only just dating the woman, you're dating the child. And that's a huge responsibility. And I have gotten back-to-back girlfriends where they both have had younger children. And lucky for me, I really like hanging with children. And I think kids like hanging with me because I'm a 32-year-old kid. If you walk through my house or the self-proclaimed basement, there's a lot of toys. A lot of cool toys. A lot of things that kids love to play with. I know at the Game-a-thon when children come over, they immediately run over to the arcade machines. I absolutely love playing with toys. I love building Legos. I love video games to an extent. I'm not a big gamer, but when it comes to the classic stuff, it's cool. I have comic books. I have action figures. I will buy slip and slides. Realistically, I wouldn't say stepdad, because I'm technically not any kid's stepdad, but being the adult male figure in their life, they're making out like a bandit, because the things they think are cool, I have thought were cool for many, many years. In fact, today, I had a slip and slide out back. I am in no shape or condition to start slip and sliding, but I was challenging Doug to run down that slip and slide. And let's just say, the 32-year-old slip and slide's better than the little kid. But I think it's just important to kind of point out the fact that I thoroughly enjoy hanging around with them. Kids automatically make my very, very cold and non-existent heart melt. There isn't a child that I don't get along with, both past or present, and it's just hanging out with them is pretty cool. I mean, usually when in my 20s, when I would go to family functions, I would hang out at the kids' table because they're much more interesting than adults. They have a unique view on the world that's not negative. If you hang out with a group of adults, you get to sit in a pity pool of just life sucks. No shit. We all know life sucks. Not everything's going to go your way 24/7. And there's probably a lot more negative than there is positive. But when you hang out with children, they tell you the craziest things. I like to speak to them on a level that they're an adult, even though they're not. And I know I've been yelled at on several occasions because sometimes I talk too adult to them. But I think it's just fun and funny. And it's interesting because they will say the weirdest and most random responses that do not apply to the conversation you're having, and then you get to make comments based on their responses. I tried this out once with a podcast with my nephew, Justin Dace Jr., because the conversations you would have with a 8-year-old they're just random. Like, he loves Minecraft, Fortnite, TikTok, and he bites into those weird childhood urban legends, and he has a weird perspective. I remember years ago with him, him and I were driving to the store. My ex-girlfriend at the time was still at the house with her son, and he wanted to go with me. So we ran to the store, and as we were driving there, he decided to tell me about Pennywise the Clown from the movie It. First of all, at the time, he was only 6, maybe even 5. Why the hell does a 5-year-old know about the horrific alien clown from It? And why is he lecturing me on it? And nowhere near the mark. Like, he's telling me that, like, hey, Uncle Chris, if, like, you don't do your homework, or, if you sleep on the right side of the bed with your left eye open and you snore, Pennywise was going to get you. And then he starts telling you about the legacy of where Pennywise came from. How he was from a carnival from like the 1900s. And he's just going on and on and on. And I'm just thinking to myself, any other person who would be sitting in the passenger seat would be like, yeah, work sucks. How about the local sports team? How about that? This kid, unasked, like not even provoked, went into this wild tangent about Pennywise the Clown, and it was a good 15-minute ride to where we were heading, and he just nonstop talked about it. So to me, children are just always just so interesting to listen to. I get yelled at often because I'll argue with children. I think it's fun. I know I'm going to win because ultimately I'm the adult. I'm going to walk away knowing what I said was right or wrong, but the kid doesn't know any different. And in the end, if it's something that I want done, the kid's going to have to do it. But it's more fun for me to just kind of poke and prod and see how far I can drag a conversation out of a kid. And I get yelled at a lot for that. Because I'm baiting them into a situation where eventually the child just breaks down and screams or cries. Not in a mean way, but, ultimately they realize they can't out-logic you. So they just get loud. But I think it's funny. I think hanging with children and that banter back and forth I have with them, it's fun to me. It's a chance to, for a lack of a better term, exploit their innocence, because they don't have the jaded view adults have. So when you engage them in a conversation and you bring a little bit of that jadedness you have yourself and mix it with the just pure innocence and how they're going to die on the hill for whatever they're talking about, like, yeah, Blippi doesn't suck. Yeah, Blippi's probably a pedophile, and we're going to find that out in 5 years and go, oh my god, I can't believe my children watched Blippi. I don't think Blippi's a pedophile. But I'm just saying, you bring that jaded skew view to that conversation of like, well, Blippi is just awful. He's annoying. I don't think he's funny. I don't think there's a point to him. The kid you're talking to will die on the hill that Blippi is the greatest thing that happened. He deserves all the Oscars. He is a national treasure. and realistically should have all the roles that both Morgan Freeman and Christopher Plummer had. Like, he should just be the guy. Pay him millions of dollars, put him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Blippi is my hero. So to me, it's fun to pick and poke and prod at that. I used to torture the hell out of my ex's kid and my nephew because they're junkies to YouTube, and they will die on the hill that the YouTube they're watching. I don't remember what it was, but it was really dumb. It was something Minecraft related, and I would always make the comment of, like, "Do you watch my videos?" Like, I do Minecraft videos. Like, me and my friends play Minecraft. We put it on YouTube. We put it on Twitch. Do you watch those? Well, we want to, Uncle Chris or Chris, but we just, we can't find it. But so we watch this guy, and all it is just somebody just screaming for a good solid 4 minutes, and these kids think it's hilarious. So to me, to entertain myself and bide my time, I'll mock that person that they're watching, and they'll die on that hill that this YouTube content creator is going to be the next Oscar-nominated director. He knows what he's doing. He's funny. He brings great content. He has millions of views, and it's like, this dude's got a couple thousand views, which is good in its own right, because I can't speak that I have that, but he's just screaming. There's no substance there. And you two little shits are just giggling your asses off because you think it's funny. And I don't know what it is about that even though we're having, like, this debate, and if you are an outsider listening, it just sounds like I'm a grumpy old man, I find it amusing. I enjoy that. I enjoy that interaction. I would take that interaction over getting drunk at a bar anytime, because I just think hanging with kids, getting them to laugh, getting them to do things that they wouldn't normally do because they're going to get in trouble, and I just get to watch as the uncle to go, he did it, he said a bad word. It's funny. And I thoroughly enjoy just their company. It's such a weird thing to say that I'd rather hang out with kids than hang out with adults, just because I have more fun. And I think point blank, at the end of the day, when it comes to this type of scenario, they're not jaded. It's just, I think that is ultimately why I have such respect for children, and how I don't mind spending time with children, and why I kind of want to be around children and have children and date single mothers who have children that are really cool kids, and I get to be a part of that experience without actually having to have changed diapers. Okay, I'll put that out there. I don't think I would be good until they're out of diapers. I know I'm not. I have a terrible gag reflex. I don't want to smell shit. I don't like animals for that reason. I don't clean their cage. I don't like dogs. I don't pick up after them. I don't do shit. But once they're able to start talking and communicating and, eating on their own and going to the bathroom on their own, I have a lot of fun with them. I am that guy that will do the slip and slide with them, throw the soccer ball at them, maybe teach them something, and just lay on the ground and play with cars with them, because that's just fun. You don't get to do that. You spend 50 to 60 hours a week working a job that is just physically and mentally exhausting, because you're dealing with people who should know what they're doing, that should have the same level of work ethic and stuff like that, and it just doesn't happen. So things just piss you off throughout the week, both work related and life related. So when you get to a chance to hang out with a kid or come home to a kid, whether it's Doug, well, I'm going to keep calling him Doug, that's not his real name, but Doug, who lives here now, or even my ex's kid, it was fun just to hang with them and have the ability to just decompress. Because in that moment, when you're playing cars, or you're slip and sliding, or you're playing Minecraft with them, or watching the YouTube videos with them, nothing else matters in that moment. It's a moment of zen for you, because you're not dealing with adult problems. You're not dealing with adults who are dumping their problems on you. You're not dealing with the shitty thing that is adulthood. So children to me has been awesome. Like, I started dating my ex in 2016. I met her child, and I have had a child in my life at that point since. So, I mean, we're going 5 years now. I've been kind of like a caretaker for children, which was new to me, but at the same time, not really hard. I mean, every once in a while, I have to be the bad guy. I have to drop the bass in my tone. I have to be like, yeah, if you stick your finger in the socket, you're going to get hurt. Don't do that. But I think it's always centered me to have those kids in my life, all of them, even my nephews and my niece, just because, again, in that moment, it's just innocence and zen, and you're just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I know that hanging out with a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old or 7-year-old and talking about like the weirdest shit that makes no sense, and you're probably going to talk about it every other time you hang out for the next year, is just easy. It's mind-numbingly easy, and not like, oh, I need to do this because I have to get a paycheck. Oh, I need to do this because the government needs tax money, or whatever the case may be, whatever adult bullshit you deal with. Kids center me, and it's because I'm still a kid at heart. Everybody who knows me, anybody who's been in my house, they see that I'm still a kid at heart. So the time I get to hang with them is probably my most cherished time, because I can be a kid, and in that moment hanging with a kid, no one's going to judge you, and that's what you're supposed to do. Nurture that child behavior. Don't let them grow up too fast. I know everybody says it, like, hey, as a kid you're always looking like, oh, I can't wait to like drive a car, go hang out and stay up late. It's like, God, I would kill just to be that kid who lays on the floor moving cars back and forth on a rug mat than the bullshit I have to deal with day to day in my adult life. And that not just like this year, but I would say since I was 18, probably even sooner, because like I've been in the workforce since I was 14. But it's just like, man, they have it. You don't realize how easy you have as a kid, and that's why I think hanging out with kids and having kids in my life is amazing. Now, we started this episode off where I told you I had some information about myself that I've only told 2 people, both of whom I dated. One that I should have told well before we stopped dating, and then the other I told when we began dating. And it sucks. It sucks really hard. I'm not even going to try to pretend that it doesn't. And it was easier to mask with jokes and just kind of push aside of like, oh, this, that, and the third, or whatever kids say. I don't know what it is. But it's definitely a weight that I've been carrying, and I know it's a weight that I shouldn't have carried alone. I know it's something that the moment I learned it, I should have shared it with the person I was with, and it was just rough. It's not a good feeling. It's not news you want to hear. In 2018, as I was personally moving towards my 30th birthday, my brain was a mess. I'll just outright admit it. I didn't think I was where I was supposed to be in my life. I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Like, I've accomplished a lot in hindsight, and being more aware of what life could have been. Not exactly hitting what I wanted, but you did a lot that people don't get a chance to do. But there was still that irrational fear there of like, oh my God, 30's coming up, the world's over. It feels like you were just 21 a couple months ago, and now as you're coming up, it's July of 2018. I'm pushing 30 in September of that year, and just a lot's on my mind. I'm with somebody who clearly wants big picture things. I want big picture things with that person, we may have been shitty communicators to each other that ultimately led to the downfall, but it was something weighing on my mind. So for the first time in years, I went to a doctor. But it wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm here for a checkup, doc. Tell me I'm fat. Tell me to hit the gym. On with our lives. It was a fertility doctor. Because I really enjoyed hanging with both my nephew and her son. And ultimately, everything I have acquired in my adulthood is a pretty sweet thing to leave behind for your eventual heirs. So it really came into question of like, you're 30, you're going to be 30. You have been sexually active since you were forever, the majority of your life, at that point, way more than half, or at least half. I don't know when I first. That's a conversation for another day. But at this point, you know that you've had sex. You know that you probably had some close calls, and you know you're not that lucky. Like, you look at a lot of the people in our age bracket, and a lot of them already had kids at that point. And I was the guy that didn't. But it's not like I wasn't having sex. And it's not like I wasn't being smart about it. Because I'm an idiot. But a lot of those thoughts just start running through my mind, and I'm thinking, I've been with, at that point, my ex almost 2 years. And we didn't have a close call once, to my knowledge. And it was just like, I understand science, I understand health, like, things aren't adding up. So you know what? Just go and go and just find out. Worst, like the best case scenario is you go and you're in your head. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And I had they pretty much came back and said it wasn't impossible, but it was highly improbable that I would have children. And it's hard to explain the feelings that happened, and I think feelings is the good word for that, but just the mental state I was in at that point to have heard that. Part of as a man, part of it's just like, oh, okay, right, that's fine, still a chance. But I would say the kid in me that had spent so many years building a video game collection, these cool toy collections, Legos, the kind of basement or hangout place that you dream of as a kid, just found out it's very unlikely that I'm going to have my own. Which is, again, not at that point in my life, it was like, it's not the end of the world. She has a kid currently who was amazing. I enjoyed hanging out with. Could eventually inherit the legacy that I was trying to build anyway. So it's not like I wasn't treating him like he wasn't my own. But it's weird to hear that bloodline-wise, it's very improbable it's going to happen for you. And again, at that point in my life, it's not like I was trying. I just thought it was weird that I didn't even have a scare. I didn't have like oh hey, remember that time we had sex like a year ago? You have a kid. I didn't have any of that. Like, I'm not lucky, clearly. So it just seemed weird. So I got tested, and then it came back highly improbable. And yeah, so that was a shot to the ego per se, I guess. Like everybody who knows me knows I built like this weird. I don't want to call it an empire because it's not an empire, but I built this franchise off of my name. And the one thing you hand down to someone as a guy, which I know is changing because women are keeping their maiden names and everything too, but it's just that legacy or that DNA or that ability to raise a young mind from birth to adulthood. And I mean, I'm making a bold assumption I'm going to do it right. I don't think anyone ever does it right, but I'm making a bold assumption I'm not going to raise a serial killer or, a kleptomaniac or something. Pyromaniac. Definitely, at least a pyromaniac. I do set things on fire a lot or blow things up. But it was weird. I keep using the word weird, but it was I'll be honest, it was heartbreaking to hear that it's a very low probability I would have a blood child, girl or boy. Now, the adult thing to do at that moment, or the responsible thing to do, would to have been talking to the person you're with to let them know, like, hey, I did this because I wanted to see what our future holds, and then go from there. But instead, like a jackass, because I am a jackass, I decided not to say anything. I decided to continue with the jokes about, oh, I've put my laptop on my nuts long enough. I'm never going to have a kid. It's fine. Or I don't want a kid. I would play off the inability to have one with I don't want one. Or it's not going to happen because I put a laptop on my nut for 10 years. Which is dumb. I'm a jackass. How can you be with someone and she clearly wanted another kid. I don't think it would have been the end all be all if she found out that I couldn't or it was a low probability. I don't think that would have been, I think, better of her to the point where she wouldn't have left me because of it. It probably was put in her cards when it did split, but it was in her cards thinking that she thought that I just didn't want one, not that I couldn't have one. And again, as a jackass, I didn't share that with her. And it's not fair to her at all. It wasn't fair to me. Like, I don't know why I did that to myself. It was just dumb. Again, jackass. So I had to have that conversation with my current girlfriend to let her know that, like, hey, it's a low probability. It's not in the cards. I am happy with Doug and Dougette, and I'm okay if we don't have one, or I don't get the opportunity to have my own. I get it. I did the test. I found out. I'm at peace. I'm not at peace with it, but I understand it. Is what it is. But I did myself a disservice with my previous girlfriend by not just like filling her in. Instead, like, again, a jackass, kept it in and played it off as if I didn't want one. When in the actuality, I adore kids. I love hanging out with them. I spent the first half of this conversation telling you that. And it wasn't meant to drop this bomb at the back half to be like, oh, this is a sad story. It's a learning experience for me. And I hope it's a learning experience for anyone else out there, that rather than being the egotistical maniac who looks like he's bulletproof because he wants to put out a bulletproof image, I should have said something to my partner at the time, because we were best friends, we were partners, and she deserved to know that. And I had deserved to get that, like, not burden that alone. That if you are in the same shoes, maybe you should speak up if you haven't. I'm not a guy that easily opens up to people. And part of doing this current podcast was to overcome that, because it's easy. Talk to a screen, talk to a mic, get it out there. People now know, people now understand, and this is my way of communicating to them without actually having to have that awkward conversation. Because it's awkward for me. Trust me. We'll do an episode one time called A Dacetacular Mind, and I'll explain my mind to you. And if you run from the hills, I totally get it. Because what happens in this head is a damn nightmare. And I know everybody says it. I firmly believe that the most creative people on this planet, their mind is their greatest tool, but also their biggest weapon against themselves, because you just play scenarios that may never happen, may have never happened, and you base what you do in life off of that. And this was one where I thought my mind told me, be bulletproof. It's more manlier to make jokes about you don't want a kid than to face the hard truth that you can't, or it's highly improbable. When you write that out on paper or you say it out loud in a podcast form, you realize how stupid you were. And this was one of the ones I had to do when I was doing therapy in 2020. It was a tough one. And that's why I wanted to put it out there in this format, because a lot of people assume things, or a lot of people think, and justifiably so, because if I'm going to go out there and put out the perception that I don't want kids, it's going to be received that, hey, he doesn't want kids. And that was just dumb. It's a lesson learned to just, you don't always have to be what you think everybody wants you to be. Not that everybody wanted me to be a bachelor or the single guy that never had kids, or that crazy uncle and only a crazy uncle and not a dad. It was more just, why would my personal burden need to be out there for anyone else to deal with? Everybody's got their own shit. To quote Scrubs, that's why they're called your problems. It sucks. It sucks hard. And it probably cost me a future that I had wanted at the time, with a woman that I wanted to be with. And I'm just glad I didn't make the same mistake a second time. That rather than keep that information to myself, I got it out there at the beginning and said, hey, I did this. It's very improbable. It's not impossible. But if you're looking for this, I'm not your guy. I want to be that guy. I will love the hell out of your little minions that you've brought to this deal. But at the end of the day, us having our own minion is about the same likelihood as the Cubs winning 2 World Series within 100 years. Baseball joke for people out there. So yeah, I went a little deep on this Dacetacular Mind. And to be honest, I feel really good that now it's out there. Whether people listen to this or not. It says we have an average listeners that are relatively high compared to the other podcasts I've ever done. So it's cool to see that people are listening to this. I know I've had people message me on the side saying like, hey, I heard this, or like they're giving me a little bit of tips here and there, not really going into depth of what I talk about. But it's good to know that people listen. If you are listening and you haven't reached out to me, I also appreciate you listening. And it's cool. I don't talk about this in public settings anyway, so like it doesn't have to be brought up. It's just more of a therapeutic thing for me, an informational thing for people who want to know, and at the end of the day, an audio legacy of my life, because every person deserves it. There's one reason I don't really care for Bo Burnham, and I know that's probably a very unpopular opinion, he hates that people like to autobiography their life. I think people should, because the only thing that matters in this world, to me at least, but I think overall, are memories. And that's what keeps people alive long after they're gone. So why not put this kind of audio out there? Who knows? Maybe a Dacetacular Mind will be successful in like 2040, 21. Or 24, 21. Or, 24,000 years from now. I don't know. But that'll do us for the Dacetacular Mind this week. I'm going to try to get an episode out next week. Because of this project I'm on, it's very hard for me to find time to do back-to-back episodes, let alone just one. Going to try to do a lighthearted subject next week. No promises. Got a lot on my mind lately. The drive up to New York is 2.5 hours, and it's a lot of inside my head time. And this was a topic that each time I drove up there, thinking about what I'm going to do next for the podcast, this was one I wanted to talk about. And so much so, I had the conversation with a certain someone about this before I did this, as well as reminded my current girlfriend that, hey, I'm going to talk about this. So, thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys continue listening. Sorry I missed the week. I'm going to try to keep getting them out on a weekly basis. Again, this is therapeutic for me, informational for those who want it, and just overall a digital footprint leaving my life out there on the internet. And you can't make fun of it, but I'm not going to let them do it. But I still have an outro for this. But thank you for hanging with me. I hope this one, again, I really hope this wasn't as heavy as it feels. I feel a hell of a lot lighter now. But I knew walking into this, I was like, oh God, dragging my feet. But thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from this. And if you're in the same scenario I was in 2018, don't be a jackass. Say something. Especially if you're with someone. Let them know. Because that could be the thing that breaks the camel's back. And it's out of your control. And if you addressed it at the get-go, it probably wouldn't have been a problem. So, thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for talking to me. And next time, we'll step even deeper into this brain. Because you just got a glimpse into a Dacetacular Mind. See you next time, guys.